even to the point of a Freudian slip in the way she makes me write something. Like that happens with, reasonable frequency. Like the other day I was writing, I was doing what she was doing, I was just kind of writing something as I was in on behalf of somebody. And I thought, because, I see where the sentence is going. I thought the word was going to be, I can't remember what it was, doing. And she wrote the word boring, which had a whole, when I reflected that back to the person afterwards, it opened a whole other door of a really boring aspect of their life that they hadn't even kind of named that. So that's just a detail. But yeah, I will end up with, it could be an A4 page written. And at the end, when we come back, I'll ask the person what they got. They'll tell me, and then I'll say, would you like to hear what I got? And I generally read it out, and I will say if it lands, it lands, and if it doesn't. But it feels like it completely comes through her. Even pauses of pen while she tries to think, or she goes in and she does something else. So, yeah.
Yeah. Fascinating. Okay.
And I think what I want to add is that I think we all can connect, and you just have to keep trying and trying and trying. And if you ask her, she will provide an answer in ways that you might not expect, right? So I also tend to hear her, and I've realized I hear her in my right ear quite clearly now, but I've had like thoughts or ideas come into my mind, and visually too. She'll show me visual images, but also messages from others, right? In a practice group, other people give me messages. So if you pay attention to your family members or friends around you, do they have messages for you that would be helpful or resonate to you at that time? And also feelings, like I tend to feel in like chakras usually, but like feel emotions or feel things that I need to work on. So even though I'm not directly asking her, what's bothering me today, it might be that I'm feeling a lot of, heaviness or fear or anxiety in my heart that day or something to cue me to, work on it more. But to ask her over and over again, she will provide what you need if you're open to it. So if I can't connect with her in the morning because I'm busy and bothered, maybe that night when it's quieter, I'll ask again. She's shown me too, like numbers and like images. Like my sister brought over monarch butterfly eggs, and the whole transformation of the egg all the way to the butterfly, like that's very symbolic of like the transformation that I'm trying to put into my life at the moment, right? So symbols as well, I think, to pay attention to. And like echoing Anne's statement of, how do I know? How do I know what I'm hearing or seeing or is really her? At the beginning, I was constantly asking her, like, did I make this up? Is this you? Like, I couldn't distinguish. So my one question over and over again I ask is like, did I make this up? Could I have, in my humanness, have made this up? And truthfully, I can't make up the things that the unseen therapist like sends me. So then that helped me trust her. And I just kept doing it over and over again, just trusting her. And I think you just have to keep trying. You have to keep asking and just don't give up, because I think everyone can connect in many different ways to just trust. And it's so useful. Like the other day, my kids are fighting. What else is new? And I was getting a little bit frustrated because they keep physically hitting each other too. And like someone's been kicked in the mouth, etc. Tears are flowing, screams are echoing. So I asked the unseen therapist, like, please give me the words that might help like my one son. And please give me the words that might help my other son, because they need different words, different tones of voices, different, settling techniques. And I asked her just to see, and she just sent me words, and it significantly quickened the amount of time it took to calm things down. Apologies were made, and then off they went to play again. So I'm realizing more and more that it really can be used on a very daily basis. In the midst of like speaking with someone that is frustrating me and I'm really upset about, I asked her, I said, please give me the words that would benefit this conversation rather than making it far worse than it needs to be, which often happens when you're in like an argumentative state. So I think just keep trying, keep asking her to if you want a vision, visual image, like ask her to show you something. If you want to hear something, ask her to open up your ears to hear it, you know? And the other thing I just want to end with is like gratitude. Like keep it open in gratitude to say like, thank you for keeping me open to hearing your messages. Like, thank you so much for helping me in whatever way you are. Like, just keep me open to receiving your messages, right? It might be through something you see on a computer screen. Like Miriam had mentioned, she got the perfect like website just pop up on her screen one day. And like, we just need to be open to it. And I think be grateful that she's sending them, be grateful that we can at some point receive them if we keep on trying.
That's really nice, and it triggers a couple of thoughts from me. You know, I mean, there's a certain wisdom in this. I mean, just to go back to a second, what words would I use for your two fighting children? You know, I mean, there's a wisdom in that, and if you try to rely on your own ego stuff, you're going to come blurt out with something that's not going to help. Okay, typically. So when we get to the point where we trust, and we get to the point where it's you said gratitude, when you're in a constant state of gratitude, not only are you more peaceful, but you're also more gratitude, and you're more tuned in to the non-stop that, Rod, I suspect there's a Hitler. There's some rage. There's some anger. There's some nasty stuff you don't want to look at. Right on. Right on. And that whole nearly 2-hour session was about the Hitler within him. Okay.
Yeah.
And it will not, that kind of anger and that kind of rage, etc., which, by the way, all of us have some piece of, or at least we have the potential for it, whether we act on it. Hitler acted on it. Okay. But I see some nodded heads. We recognize it is there. We push it down. We don't act on it. We got a facade. And so while that seemingly was not very loving, ultimately I had to punch him in the nose to get there. Okay. And he's sent me an email here a few days ago. He's going to send me some more. But apparently he's been watching this session that we did over and over and over and over again. And he says he's getting all kinds of messages and love and peace, and it's been quiet. And I don't know if that's going to fix the cancer or not, but it's a step in the right direction. That's my point. It's a loving thing. It's a loving thing, but sometimes it may have a little punch to it. Just so you know. Okay. Long story, but I wanted to add that one in here. So
it's important because sometimes what we get is not what we want to hear, particularly personally. We may not want to hear it, but it's always wise and loving and without judgment.
And without
judgment.
Without judgment. Yes. Interestingly enough, in this session with Rod that I did, even though it may on the surface seem judgmental, he was buying it big time and there was no judgment whatsoever. And we were putting the real issue on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which you have to do sometimes. Okay.
Yeah.
And I would suspect that many of our clients that are maybe not getting beyond certain physical things that they'd like to get beyond, and they wonder why, because somewhere underneath there, there's the big one, the Hitler or whatever it is. There's the big one in there. Okay. Got to bring it up. Okay. Anything more you guys have to offer while we're here?
Yes.
Please.
I have something to add. Two things about what Anne said. One is I had a thought, and you suggested that if you're new to listening to the Unseen Therapist, try it out with some person that you have no stake in the answer. And I thought you could take it one step further and just try it with just someone you meet on the street, someone who is standing in front of you online who looks upset, or the person who's delivering your mail, and just asking the Unseen Therapist, is there something I need to know? And do it as a kind of experiment. See if it leads somewhere. See if it leads to a conversation, or in a conversation if it turns out to be meaningful. And that's how you begin to build up confidence that you can get information. And also, as everyone has pointed out, as you begin to hear or work with the Unseen Therapist more, you get to know your style. You hear it in your right ear, or you hear a voice in your head, or you see something, or things happen. And the more you do this work, even if it's just experimenting when you're out and about, the more you'll be able to trust, because you find out the information you get was useful. So that was one thing.
Can I add?
Comment? Yeah.
Sorry, I want to add to the trust thing. And that is, I think more often than people realize, they do communicate with the Unseen Therapist, because I don't know if the rest of you have heard this, but often it's like if I'm working with somebody new, they will say, we close our eyes, we open our eyes. I say, well, how was that? And say, I didn't get anything. However, and then like 5 minutes of, I remembered when, and then this, and then that, so I didn't, no, I didn't get anything from the Unseen Therapist. However, wait till I tell you, what came to my mind. So this thing of like, what's coming from her, I think a lot of the times it is coming from her, but we and people that are new to this can think, well, no, I got nothing from her, but while I was in there with my eyes closed, this is what came into my mind. And that's I mean, Gary, as you always say, the unseen therapist is not out there. I mean, it is our own inner wisdom, our own divine part, our own inner guide. I mean, whatever word people have for it. So all we're doing is accessing that. And whether the voice comes from the right ear, the left ear, out there, image in head, you know, at the end of the day, like, it's coming from within, and we're just trying to connect to that part that's with us 24 hours of every day.
Yeah, we're learning to listen, which prompts me to say one other thing, and it has to do with something about readiness. I mean, we'd like to be ready 24/7, that always listening. That isn't the case, but we're honing our skills to get there. I'm finding that the times when I'm listening best is when I'm in a session with somebody, a therapy type session. Somehow or other, I'm getting these notions. Okay. Okay, guys, anything more?
I'd like to just explain why I keep yawning. I'm a chronic yawner when we connect to the unseen therapist with the groups. I actually take notes like a prisoner, marking off in fives how many yawns they do. I think my most has been about 23 yawns in one group session. When I connect to the unseen therapist, and I think it's because there's 4 of us. I think it's stronger. That's actually a good thing to mention as well. When I'm on my own, it's never as strong as it is when I'm with a group. It's like a meditation or anything like that, you know. it's definitely more powerful. And it's not that I'm yawning because I'm tired. I think that I'm just in that loving space, bubble, whatever you want to call it. And things just start getting released, things that are ready to be released. I don't know what they are. I don't care what they are. I don't need to know. They're being released. I definitely think stuff is being shifted. So when I yawn, I know that's a good sign that I'm connected. And in fact, now that I think about it, it only ever happens when I'm in a group. It never happens when I'm on my own. So I really do think it's the strength of the connection. And one last thing I'd like to add is something that I learned from NAMI, in fact, was when I do ask the unseen therapist for, answers to questions or whatever, I kind of take what I'm given and presume that that's it. But NAMI's taught me to continue asking anything else. And she may ask that 4 or 5 times. And there's a whole richness of stuff that's still available if you keep asking. So don't just stop on the first question. I imagine the unseen therapist sitting there, like tapping her fingers, waiting for us to ask anything else. And she's just dying to give us more information. She's not going to give us the whole thing on the first go. So.
Well, she'll give us what we can take.
Yeah. Or what we can write down fast enough.
or what we're ready to hear. Sometimes we aren't ready to hear. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So. Okay, guy. Any other bits of wisdom from you that comes from the wisdom of the unseen therapist?
Not for now.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, I would like to have you. I'm going to close this out right now. I'd like to have you guys just stay on a little bit. We'll talk after this broadcast is over. So, to all those listening in, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got a lot out of it. I hope you listen more to the unseen therapist. Practice, practice, practice. See you next time.